Before we dive in, remember, facing the dark side of ourselves isn't easy. But if this video resonates with you, consider liking and subscribing. That way, we continue together on this journey of mirrors and truths no one wants to hear, but everyone needs. You think you want love, but sometimes what you really want is to destroy it. That's what this video is about, the hidden urge to ruin what you admire, to crush what heals you, to suffocate what makes you feel small beside it. This isn't jealousy. Jealousy fears losing what it loves. Envy wants to make it disappear. It's the quiet pleasure of watching something good fall apart, because its existence reminds you of what you're not. You say you want connection, peace, intimacy, but part of you can't stand to receive them, because the moment you touch what's good, you feel how much of you is still broken. That's the part we never admit. The part that loves and hates at the same time. The part that destroys beauty just to stop feeling small. Psychologist Melanie Klein called it the envious self, the first shadow born with love itself. And today, we'll face it, not to condemn it, but to understand why you keep killing what you crave, why you keep breaking what could heal you. Because until you face this shadow, you'll keep mistaking destruction for control, and love will always end in ashes.
Before you ever learned how to love, you already knew how to envy. That sounds cruel, doesn't it? But stay with me for a moment. You'll see why soon. In the beginning, love isn't peaceful. It's hunger. It's dependence. It's the terrifying realization that something outside of you holds what you need to survive. A voice, a gaze, a warmth that quiets the chaos inside. And when that goodness appears, something inside you awakens. Not just love, but fear. Because every time you feel the good, you're reminded that it doesn't belong to you. That it can vanish, that it's not under your control. That's when envy is born. Not out of evil, but out of helplessness. Out of the unbearable truth that what sustains you is not you. Melanie Klein called this the envious self, the first shadow born with love itself. She saw it in the child who feeds and feels comfort, but also anger. Because the source of comfort isn't theirs to command. It belongs to someone else. And when you can't possess what gives you life, the next impulse is to destroy it. Sounds dramatic? Maybe. But look closer, and you'll see it everywhere. That impulse never really disappears. It just grows sophisticated. It learns new disguises. It puts on nice clothes. It smiles politely. It calls itself standards or boundaries or just being honest. But beneath all that, it's the same ancient rage. I want to own what soothes me or watch it fall apart. We all carry that tension. Love mixed with hostility. Admiration mixed with resentment. It's why you can praise someone and still secretly hope they stumble. Why success in others can feel like a personal failure. Why you sometimes destroy what's good just to feel in control again. And here's the disturbing part. Envy doesn't always look like hatred. Sometimes it looks like logic. Sometimes it hides in jokes, in doubt, in the tiny things we withhold from people we care about. A delay in answering, a small withdrawal of warmth, a subtle sabotage that no one will ever notice. You call it self-protection, but deep down, it's envy whispering, "If I can't fully have it, let it die a little." That's the first shadow we ever meet, and most of us never stop living beside it. It's not an enemy, not exactly. It's a wound that never healed. A reminder that to love is to be exposed. And that's the secret most people never face. You don't destroy because you're cruel. You destroy because you're terrified. Terrified of needing something you can't control. And the moment you see that, the whole story of your relationships begins to make sense. Because envy doesn't vanish with age. It follows you to every friendship, every romance, every dream. And soon, you'll see how it quietly shapes the way you love and the way you lose. But that's where we're going next. Don't look away now. This is where things start getting real.
You think envy lives in competition, but the truth is, it lives in closeness. It hides where love should be safe. Between friends, between partners, between you and the person you swore you'd never hurt. And you might not notice it at first, because envy doesn't always scream. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it kisses you goodnight. Sometimes it sounds like advice. But deep down, it wants the same thing it always wanted: to destroy what it can't fully possess. That's why the people who trigger your envy are never strangers. They're mirrors. They show you the version of yourself you've buried, the confidence you lost, the peace you can't hold, the life you wish you had the courage to live. And instead of reaching for that version of you, you attack it where it appears, in them. A tiny criticism, a subtle withdrawal of warmth, a silence that says, "You're not that special." Don't judge yourself too fast. This isn't cruelty, it's fear. The fear that someone else's light might prove your own is fading. Stay with that thought for a moment, because this is where most people turn away. You want to love purely, but love always exposes your envy. It shows you the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be, and that gap hurts. So you do what the mind always does when it's hurting. You regain control. You shrink the other person, just a little. You take back the power by pulling them down in your thoughts. And for a second, it works. You feel safe again. But that safety always tastes like poison. Because here's the twist. Envy doesn't only attack others, it always comes back for you. Every time you secretly belittle someone, you're teaching yourself that greatness isn't safe to have. You start dimming your own light, apologizing for your wins, hiding your joy before anyone else can resent it. That's how envy builds its perfect prison. It keeps you from admiring others and keeps others from admiring you. You stop receiving love because love now feels humiliating. You stop celebrating beauty because beauty reminds you of your lack. And the saddest part? You start calling this self-protection. You start believing that staying small is being wise. But it's not wisdom. It's fear dressed as humility. And if any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, good. Because the next part will show you why envy doesn't just live between you and others, it also lives inside you. And once you see that, you'll never look at self-sabotage the same way again.
You think envy is something you feel toward others, but stay with me. Because the cruelest envy lives inside you. It's the envy of your own potential, the version of you that could have been. The one who didn't flinch, didn't quit, didn't wait for permission. You see glimpses of that self sometimes when you speak your truth, when you almost take the risk, when you taste the freedom you secretly crave, and for a moment, you feel alive. But then something whispers, "Who do you think you are?" That voice isn't doubt. It's envy. It's the part of you that can't tolerate your own growth, because becoming more means leaving behind who you were, and the ego hates being abandoned, even by evolution itself. So it sabotages you, not with dramatic breakdowns, but with subtle delays. You start overthinking. You shrink your dreams. You call procrastination timing. You confuse fear with intuition. That's how self-envy operates. Quiet, reasonable, deadly. It convinces you that staying small is spiritual, that safety is wisdom, that giving up is acceptance. But underneath all that reasoning, there's something simpler. You envy the part of you that's still unbroken. You envy your own wholeness, the clarity, the strength, the courage that once felt natural. And because you can't be fully that version anymore, you punish yourself for it. You turn healing into self-criticism. You call self-love selfish. You reject peace because peace feels undeserved. It's strange, isn't it? You've become both the destroyer and the destroyee, the jailer and the prisoner, the parent and the punished child. But don't look away. This is where it gets real. Because once you see how you envy your own light, you start to understand why you dim it, why you walk away from love right when it starts working, why you ruin the calm you spent months building. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of transformation. Because transformation demands a death. The death of the smaller self that once protected you. And that self will fight to survive. It will make you tired, distracted, uninspired. It will do anything to keep the cycle alive. But here's the truth you've probably never said out loud. The part of you that sabotages everything isn't evil. It's terrified. It's trying to protect you from outgrowing what once kept you safe. And once you see that, the war softens. The punishment stops feeling holy. You start to realize that healing isn't about killing your shadows. It's about letting them retire. And soon you'll see how this silent war inside you mirrors everything you destroy outside of you. Because envy never stays contained. It spreads. It infects. It repeats. But understanding that pattern, that's where freedom quietly begins.
You don't destroy the good because you hate it. You destroy it because you can't own it. That's the secret we almost never admit. And once you see it, everything starts to make sense. Goodness exposes dependency. Love exposes need. Peace exposes how addicted you are to chaos. And the moment something pure enters your life, your mind doesn't relax. It panics. Because goodness demands surrender. And surrender feels like death to the ego. So instead of receiving it, you control it. You start editing the good until it feels manageable, less bright, less threatening, less alive. You call that balance, but it's really destruction disguised as safety. You do this in love, in work, in every new beginning. You chase something beautiful, then the second it gets close, you suffocate it. You tell yourself, it wasn't the right time, or that it wasn't meant to last. But stay with me, because this is the hard part. You destroy the good because deep down you believe you don't deserve it. You were taught that peace must be earned, that love must be proven, that joy must be justified. So when something comes easily, when someone loves you without effort, when life finally softens, it doesn't feel real. It feels like a trap. And the only way to feel safe again is to recreate the pain you understand. Because pain is predictable. Suffering is familiar. And what's familiar always feels like home. That's why people run back to what hurts them. Not because they love the suffering, but because they can control it. You can't control joy. You can't control love. You can't control peace. They require trust, and trust is unbearable when you've been betrayed. So you break what's good before it breaks you. It's your mind's way of staying one step ahead of loss. But here's the paradox. You never actually feel safer. You just trade the fear of loss for the certainty of emptiness. And emptiness always wins. Melanie Klein called this moment reparation. The point when you realize what you've destroyed and feel the ache to make it whole again. That ache is conscience waking up. It's the birth of real love. Because love isn't the absence of destruction. It's the courage to rebuild what you once broke. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe life keeps giving you the same good things to destroy until you finally learn to stop. Until you can hold beauty without needing to own it. Until you can face peace without trying to control it. Stay with me, because what comes next is the moment that changes everything. When you stop fighting the shadow and finally turn to face it.
You've seen what envy does to love. You've seen what it does to you. But there's one more step, the hardest one. To stop running from the shadow and finally turn toward it. This is the moment most people never reach because it doesn't feel like healing. It feels like humiliation. It feels like standing naked in front of your own mistakes without a single excuse left to hide behind. But stay here for a second, because this is where everything changes. When you finally face your envy, you realize it was never evil. It was wounded admiration. It was the love you couldn't express without control. The beauty you couldn't stand because it reminded you of what you buried. Envy is the shadow side of longing, and longing at its core is sacred. It's the proof that you can still recognize goodness, even when you can't yet hold it. That's why your envy hurts so much. It's not because you're broken. It's because something inside you still knows what beauty feels like, and hates that you've forgotten how to touch it. Facing your shadow means seeing the wound beneath the defense, the fear beneath the judgment, the grief beneath the control. And the moment you see that clearly, the cycle starts to dissolve. Because you can't hate what you finally understand. Here's the paradox. The shadow you've been hiding from was never your enemy. It was your reflection, distorted by shame. And every time you turned away from it, you turned away from yourself. But when you stop fighting it, when you look straight into it, you realize something breathtaking. The shadow was never asking to be erased. It was begging to be seen. This is the moment real consciousness begins. Not when you transcend your darkness, but when you sit beside it and say, I see you. I know why you're here. You don't have to protect me anymore. And right there, in that surrender, envy loses its power.
it becomes what it always was underneath. The longing for wholeness, a memory of love that forgot its name. Don't turn away now, because this is where healing actually happens. Not in light, but in the courage to face what's been hiding inside the dark. You're not here to destroy your shadow. You're here to let it speak. And once it's heard, it no longer needs to scream through destruction. That's what Klein meant when she said love and hate are twins. Both come from the same hunger to connect, to matter, to feel alive. And maybe that's the point of all this. To stop pretending we're pure. To love with our flaws awake. To hold what we once tried to break. Because when you can look at your own darkness without turning away, that's when love finally becomes real.
You've spent your whole life trying to fix what's broken. But maybe healing isn't fixing. Maybe it's learning to love what could still break again. That's the courage envy never had, to let something beautiful exist without needing to control it, to let it be alive, unpredictable, free. Because love isn't safety, it's surrender. It's the quiet acceptance that what you hold could disappear, and choosing to hold it anyway. The truth is, you'll always carry the shadow. You'll always feel the pull to destroy what's good, especially when it feels too good to be true. But now, you'll recognize it, and recognition changes everything. You'll see the impulse rise, and instead of obeying it, you'll breathe. You'll remember this isn't hate, it's fear, and fear only wants to be seen. That's how love begins to mature, not by denying the darkness, but by holding it gently, the way you wish someone had held you. So don't kill the rose this time. Let it breathe. Let it live outside your control. Let it remind you that beauty was never yours to own, only yours to witness. Because the moment you can love without needing to possess, the shadow loses its hunger, and what's left is peace. Not the kind that avoids pain, but the kind that no longer fears it. That's the courage to love what you could ruin. That's what it means to face the shadow and walk out of it awake.
If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it. We all carry a small war inside us, the part that builds and the part that quietly wants to watch it all burn. But you don't need to kill that part to heal. You just need to know when it's speaking. Every time you envy, control, or pull away, it's not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you still care enough to feel. So don't try to erase your darkness. Learn to listen to it without obeying it. That's how self-awareness turns into strength. That's how love stops being a performance and becomes a practice. And maybe that's all healing ever was. Not perfection, just honesty that finally stopped hiding.